Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are looking at the second, or third, depending on how you count the pilot, episode of the first season of Glitch. This jumps right into the world building as our erstwhile heroes face a fantastic challenge. Training Day! Dun dun dun! Seriously though, this show is a delight of tropes that are played straight, subverted, and used to cloak a growing plot until the moment is right, and it does that all at once. Let's jump right in. The episode opens with our delightfully contrasted heroes getting in trouble on their first day of work. Again, that odd duality kicks in as an innocent grandma is mind-wiped in a gross display of misuse of power over a minor technical issue, and this is played for a laugh. The strange obfuscation between what is the reality of this animated world our characters inhabit and what is window dressing only visible to the audience is here as well. The matter of transportation portal? Real in their world. The running sound effects? Added for the audience. The icon that appears over the old lady's progress of her memory wipe? It's not so clear. Now, a little character study. Fives and Miko's are best friends already. They never say this. They almost never even reference their friendship. But their body language, the way their faces change when they come into each other's presence, there's the obvious marks of a quickly formed real friendship. They both smile at each other with easy camaraderie that only comes to boys and girls in their first healthy childhood before the hormones kick in. It never occurs to one that the other is the opposite sex. But there's more to this friendship. They relax when they are beside each other and don't when they're having to stand on their own. They stand a little easier. Miko isn't as aggressive, Fives isn't as tense. They know instinctively that they can be themselves in each other's presence. They both love games. They are both delighted to be working at the Hobinobi store. They match each other like a foot in a rocket boot. However, they are almost nothing alike. Our heroes are delightfully well contrasted. Fives is a lanky working-class boy. Miko is a plump upper-middle-class girl. They are both open, extroverted, conscientious, agreeable, and low in neuroticism, but each is the opposite in many important ways. Fives has had to work to earn money before it was strictly legal for him to be doing so. He knows the value of $1 because he has had to earn every cent he has ever spent. He is focused, determined. If there is a skill he needs, he will work diligently to master that skill. He has plenty of experience knuckling down and putting in the elbow grease to earn his stripes. He is the living embodiment of conscientiousness and hardworking. He is earnest and cautious. In his short life, he has already experienced much of the suffering and deprivation that is common to a working-class boy in a first-world country. He loves games because it allows him to work towards fantastic goals that he can still achieve with his own two hands. He is practical to the point almost of a lack of sympathy, but he is also polite. There are rules to follow in his interactions with other human beings, and he follows them and expects others to be just as delighted with those rules as he is. Miko is the pampered child of an upper-middle-class family. She knows the value of money only in a technical sense, and only that because her parents gave her a nice traditional lesson on the matter with her allowance on the value of money. She has only ever lacked for time and attention, and even that not by much. She is so wonderfully enthusiastic about what she is good at, and managed to overcome her near-complete lack of conscientiousness. Gaming comes naturally to her, and everything she really ever wanted to do came naturally to her. She has never really had to work for what she wanted. If something got too difficult so that her enthusiasm couldn't overcome it, she just shrugged and dropped it. She is cheerful and delighted with the world to the point that damages her sympathy. She can't imagine other people not loving the things that she loves, even though she has to deal with this situation on a daily basis. It just doesn't compute for her. She hates rules. And now, in this episode, Miko and Fives get distracted from their training and end up creating one of those classic cascading comedic situations where they create a massive problem for their boss, and risk getting fired, risk getting their boss fired, risking the whole store shut down. The setup is a classic. They have done the one thing wrong that will result in horrible consequences for them and their boss. They have come up with a clever way to counter the problem they created, and the plot's twist is painfully obvious. Some out-of-left-field factor will come into play that will save their bacon and turn the situation to their benefit. Obvious, a trope, predictable, so much so that it blinds the audience to the strange dark undertones that are revealed at the end of the episode. The very specific duality about Hinobi Corporation is brought into sharp and visceral focus in this episode in a way that cannot be coincidental. The creators want it itching in the back of your head that the higher corporate levels of Hinobi are acting with governmental blessing, maybe even with direct governmental oversight. You see an inspector from a corporate arrives to inspect the store where Fives and Miko are working and just happens to show up on the first day of their work. You don't question this at first because it is such a common trope. Of course, an aggravating factor will arrive when the main characters are shown in the worst light. However, like so many aspects of this show, something is just not right about this inspector. And it all boils down to her uniform. You see, what she wears is not a corporate uniform. The boss of the kids, he is wearing a corporate uniform. The vest, the slacks, the polo shirt. What Barbara, the inspector, is wearing, that is a government uniform. And that is not just any government uniform. That is the single high-ranking government uniform that the audience of this show, namely children between the ages of 7 and 17, will be able to identify instantly as a government uniform. This is the uniform of a high-ranking member of the United States Department of the Interior National Park Service, Class A. This is the uniform that the highest-ranking ranger wears when your class goes to see the presentation about bald eagles, where you actually get to touch a real live eagle. The cut of the uniform is a dead giveaway. It is an only minorly altered version of the uniform worn by female military officers during World War I. The uniform was brought over to the National Park Service, specifically because most of the first rangers were former military personnel, and those were the clothes they had. For most children, it is the first glimpse of the federal government that they ever get, and I find its use here very, very telling, plot-wise. The uniform is a gray-green that is cut in an office professional form that does limit movement, but is made of the sturdy type of material that would offer protection from rough physical labor. This is the color, material, and cut of the NPS Class A uniform. The name tag is a bronze rectangle placed at the top breast of the breast pocket. The badge itself is an NPS badge shaped, but it is Hinnowy blue instead of NPS gold. But most telling is the one thing that is not made from the same material as the uniform. The handkerchief that Barbara wears is a classic National Park green, offsetting the main color of the uniform. This is not a common color for handkerchiefs, especially not ones that you wear to contain your hair. To top all that off, I have worked with just such women as Inspector Barbara. In fact, I think that most of them were named Barbara. She is classic middle-aged woman, works in the administration for the Department of the Interior. It kind of makes me wonder if this isn't a direct call-out character. If so, I'm sorry they made you probably a villain, Barb. I'll see you in the spring when you do my paperwork for me. Love you. So, there we have that odd duality of a corporation that reeks of government control. Specifically, the branch of the government that serves to preserve and conserve isolated resources for future development. And after the closing scene of the episode, after the kids have cleaned up the mess of their actions caused and suffered the just and ordinate punishment from the manager, there is one more scene. Instead of taking a portal back to Hornoby corporate headquarters instantly, Inspector Barbara is sitting in the dark parking lot. It's dark because it's night. She left those kids in the early morning of the workday, so she probably walked out of that store at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. Here she is at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, lingering in the parking lot in a car, looking menacingly at a glowing screen. That's odd. The camera, and before we get to see her, the camera pans over the surrounding landscape, and you are immediately struck by the isolation of the town. There are no human structures on the hills and mountains surrounding the town. Any centralized city with more than 10,000 people is going to have houses out in the hills. It's urban sprawl, it happens, but there's nothing out there, suggesting that this is either a population of under 5,000 people, or they're all artificially crammed into this valley. So how much wilderness surrounds this town? How hemmed in is this population? The plot twist is fairly simple, the main plot twist. The inspection of the store was a ruse. Barbara only scheduled it to get close to Fives and Miko. The clues were all there. You didn't notice them because they were disguised in plain sight as comedic tropes. But as Barbara is reviewing her inspection of the children, a menacing voice, the kind used in movies classically by corrupt government officials, not the one they use for greedy corporate officials, tells Barbara to continue monitoring the kids. The camera pans out to reveal the wilderness around them. One more time before the scene cuts off. Now, the goal of the national parks is to conserve the scenery and natural and historic objects and wildlife therein, and to provide for the enjoyment of the same in such manner and by such means as will leave them unimpaired for enjoyment to future generations. The national park is basically the R&D department of the federal government for natural resources. So, in Hinnoby, it's this this Hinobi seems to have a big R&D for the development of human and technical resources. Again, that weird duality. The pseudo-national park ranger has some interest in these budding members of the future generation, isolated in their oddly wilderness city. The corporate inspector is developing something nefarious. Again, that odd duality. What is Barbara using this odd human conserve to develop? So, what do you think? Leave a like if you agree, and leave a comment smashing my analysis like a rogue glitch if you disagree. Check out my Teespring channel for some weird human merch, and share this video if you want to see more. Peace out, my wonderful viewers.